When a billionaire's daughter invited the quiet janitor's son to her glamorous Halloween party, she never expected her world of luxury to collide with the unseen. As candles flickered and whispers filled the halls, she realized he hadn't come alone, and the ghost he brought carried a love that never died. The autumn air at Crestwood Academy carried the crisp scent of fallen leaves and excitement. It was almost Halloween, the time of year when every hallway was draped in fake cobwebs, every locker door had pumpkins, and whispers of Amelia Roth's legendary Halloween party filled the air. Amelia was the kind of girl everyone admired, graceful, kind-hearted, and, of course, the daughter of billionaire developer Richard Roth. Her family's mansion, perched on the hill overlooking the city, was the crown jewel of Crestwood. Each year, her party became an event the whole town talked about, a place where fairy lights met luxury, and every guest felt like royalty. But this year, as Amelia sat at her desk signing the last of the golden-edged invitations, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The guest list had the usual names: her classmates, the mayor's son, the influencer crowd, yet her heart felt strangely hollow. That afternoon, as she walked through the quiet back hall toward the courtyard, she passed by the janitor's closet, a place most students never noticed. The smell of soap and dust filled the air, and through the half-open door, she saw a boy sitting quietly on a stool, sketching in an old notebook. It was Noah Hayes, the janitor's son. His father worked at the academy, and Noah often waited for him after school, helping clean classrooms or sweeping hallways. Amelia had seen him before, quiet, polite, always with his head down. His clothes were plain, his sneakers old, and there was a quiet sadness in his eyes that made him look older than his years. For a moment, she stood there, watching the pencil glide across his page. He was drawing, not monsters or superheroes like most kids did, but a woman's face, gentle smiling, eyes full of light. Amelia felt something stir inside her, curiosity, maybe compassion. She took one of her golden invitations from her bag and, without a word, slid it under the janitor's locker before walking away. That evening, when Noah found the envelope, he stared at it in disbelief. The letters shimmered under the dim light. "You're invited to Amelia Roth's Halloween party, October 31st. Come if you'd like." His father, Mr. Hayes, leaned over his shoulder and frowned slightly. "That's kind of her," he said softly, but his tone carried something else, worry or maybe fear. Noah looked up. "Can I go, Dad?" The older man hesitated, wiping his hands on his work rag. "You can," he finally said, his voice heavy. "But remember, son, not everyone sees the world the same way we do." Noah didn't understand what that meant, but that night, as he packed his small, handmade scarecrow costume, he looked at the photo on his nightstand, his mother's smiling face. "Mom," he whispered into the quiet room, "I wish you could come with me." The wind rustled the curtains, and for a brief second, he heard the faintest whisper, warm, soft, and full of love. "I wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart." Halloween night arrived in all its glittering wonder. The Roth mansion stood like something out of a fairy tale, draped in cobweb silk, carved pumpkins glowing from every balcony, and 1,000 lights flickering through its towering windows. Inside, laughter echoed against marble floors, and music drifted from a live string quartet dressed as ghosts. Amelia moved through the grand hall wearing a golden masquerade mask and a gown that shimmered like starlight. Every guest turned to admire her, whispering about how her parties always felt like magic. Yet even with all the noise and excitement, she found herself glancing toward the door more often than she'd like to admit, waiting. When Noah arrived, he stood uncertainly at the edge of the driveway, his father's old coat hanging loosely over his shoulders. His costume was simple, a scarecrow stitched from rough brown fabric and a straw hat that tilted awkwardly to one side. Compared to the extravagant vampires and princesses around him, he looked painfully out of place. For a moment he thought about turning back, but then a soft voice beside him whispered, "You'll be fine. Just be yourself." He smiled faintly, though no one was there to see it, and stepped inside. The music faltered for half a second when Noah entered the ballroom. Heads turned and a few snickers rippled through the crowd. "That's the janitor's kid," someone muttered. Amelia, standing by the dessert table, caught the sound and frowned. Without hesitation, she walked straight over and smiled. "You made it," she said warmly, handing him a cup of cider. Noah returned a shy smile, his eyes flickering to the space beside him. "Thanks," he said quietly. "She really likes your decorations?" Amelia blinked. Noah looked embarrassed, shrugging. "Oh, just my mom." Before she could ask more, the lights above them flickered once, twice, and then steadied. A gust of cold air swept through the room, making several candles dance wildly. Guests looked around nervously, but Amelia forced a laugh. "Probably just the wind," she said. The music resumed, but the atmosphere felt different. In the corner of the hall, a portrait tilted slightly on its hook. From somewhere deep in the mansion came a faint sound, like a humming lullaby. Hours passed, and the party spilled into the garden where lanterns floated over the pond like tiny moons. Noah wandered away from the crowd, drawn by the faint melody drifting from the old music room. Amelia followed, curiosity outweighing fear. Inside, the room was empty, except for the grand piano, its keys moving gently though no one sat before it. The same lullaby continued, tender and familiar. Noah's voice trembled. "That's my mom's song. She used to sing it every night." Amelia's heart raced. "But who's playing it now?" Noah turned to her, his expression both sad and peaceful. "She is," he whispered. "She wanted to come." The candles around them flickered brighter for a moment, and somewhere between shadow and light, Amelia thought she saw the faint outline of a woman smiling. The mansion felt different after that night. Though the laughter of the party still echoed faintly through its halls, something else lingered, something softer, more sorrowful, like a voice half heard in a dream. Amelia couldn't forget what she'd seen in the music room. The faint, glowing outline of a woman at the piano, the way Noah's eyes had filled with both wonder and grief. The next morning, she woke with that same lullaby still playing in her mind, hauntingly beautiful. It wasn't fear that gripped her, but curiosity, an ache to understand who this woman was and why she had come. At school the following Monday, Noah was quieter than ever. He sat under the old oak tree during lunch, sketching in his worn notebook, while the wind played with the corners of the pages. Amelia approached him hesitantly, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate from the cafeteria. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. He looked up, surprised, then nodded. "Sure." They sat in silence for a moment before she finally asked, "The woman from the piano, she's your mom, isn't she?" Noah's pencil stopped moving. He nodded slowly, eyes focused on the ground. "Her name was Emily Hayes. She died 2 years ago. There was a fire at the hospital where she worked. She stayed behind to help the patients who couldn't escape." His voice cracked slightly, but he kept going. "Dad says, sometimes she still visits, when I'm scared or lonely. He says she never really left us." Amelia listened, her heart aching. "That's beautiful," she whispered. "Do you really think she was there that night?" Noah looked up at her then, his eyes shimmering like dark glass. "I don't just think it. I know it, I could feel her. She's always around, even when people can't see her." He flipped open his notebook and turned it toward her. There, drawn with delicate strokes, was the woman Amelia had seen. The same kind smile, the same soft eyes. But what took her breath away was what was behind her in the drawing. A faint outline of Amelia herself, standing beside them. "I didn't draw that part," Noah said quietly. "It just appeared this morning." A cold wind swept across the courtyard then, carrying with it the faintest sound, a woman's voice humming the same lullaby. Both of them froze. Amelia turned toward the school building, her heart pounding. The windows of the music room shimmered with a faint, warm light, though no one was inside. "She's here," Noah whispered. "She's trying to tell us something." Amelia swallowed hard, torn between awe and fear. But when she looked back at Noah, she saw how calm he was, how certain. His faith made her believe too. For the first time, she didn't see a janitor's son or a ghost story. She saw a boy who had held on to love so fiercely that even death couldn't take it away. And deep down, Amelia knew this was only the beginning of what his mother wanted them to discover. A week after the Halloween party, the Roth mansion had grown still again. The decorations were gone, the laughter had faded, and only a faint echo of that strange night lingered in Amelia's mind. She couldn't stop thinking about Noah's mother, the way her presence had filled the music room, the warmth in her unseen touch, and the message that seemed to hum quietly beneath every flicker of candlelight. Amelia had always believed in logic, in the tangible comforts of her privileged life. But now, she found herself wondering about things beyond reason, about love that could stretch past the veil of death. One afternoon, Amelia asked Noah to come by the mansion after school to help her clean up the remaining decorations. Her father was away on business, and the staff had already left for the day, leaving the enormous house unusually quiet. They worked side by side, carefully boxing up masks and packing away the golden candelabras. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was peaceful. Every so often, Noah would glance at the grand staircase as if expecting someone to appear there, and Amelia almost hoped she would. As Amelia reached to dust one of the tall bookcases in the old library, her hand brushed against a slight draft of air. She frowned and looked closer. One of the wooden panels behind the shelf seemed slightly loose. "That's strange," she murmured. Noah came over, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Together they pushed the shelf aside, revealing a narrow door half hidden by the woodwork. Amelia's heart pounded as she tugged on the brass handle. With a soft creak, the door opened into a small, dust-covered room no one had entered in years. Inside, the air smelled of paper, lavender, and thyme. Old photographs lined the walls, showing generations of the Roth family. But one picture, framed in silver and standing on an antique desk, drew Noah forward. His breath caught. "That's her," he whispered. The photograph showed a woman with warm eyes and a kind smile. Emily Hayes, his mother. But standing beside her was another familiar face, Amelia's mother. Amelia's hands trembled as she picked up the picture. "My mom, she knew your mother." Her voice broke as she flipped the frame over. On the back, written in neat handwriting, were the words, "To my dearest friend Emily, for the kindness you gave when I had none." Noah's throat tightened. "She was your mom's nurse once," he said softly. "Dad told me. She worked here for a while before the hospital." 1,000 thoughts flooded Amelia's mind. Her mother had passed away when she was young, leaving behind only memories of warmth and laughter. And now she realized, Noah's mother had once helped her mother through sickness, had once been part of her world. The discovery connected their families in ways they never imagined. Amelia looked at Noah with tears in her eyes. "It wasn't an accident you came that night," she whispered. "It was her. She wanted us to find this." And somewhere in the room, the faint scent of lilies filled the air again, like a thank you whispered through time. The days following the discovery of the secret room felt surreal for Amelia and Noah. Every photograph, every letter they found seemed to tie their mothers' lives together like pieces of a forgotten story. The two women had shared not only a friendship but also a promise of kindness and protection that seemed to have reached beyond their lifetimes. Amelia could sense it now. A quiet presence in the mansion's halls, watching, guiding, waiting. And Noah, he could feel her too. The more they uncovered, the more his mother's spirit seemed to stir, as though the truth was giving her strength. That evening, as twilight bled into the sky, Amelia invited Noah and his father to dinner. It was a humble meal compared to the Roths' usual feasts, soup, bread, and laughter shared around the small kitchen table. Mr. Hayes looked uneasy at first, sitting beneath the chandeliers and ornate walls, but Amelia's warmth eased him. When they finished, she led them back to the library, where the photograph of their mothers rested on the desk, glowing softly under the lamplight. "This was meant to be found," Amelia said quietly. "They were friends once, maybe even like family." Mr. Hayes smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "Emily always spoke of a kind woman she worked for, someone who helped her when times were hard. I guess that was your mother." Noah reached for the frame and held it gently, as though afraid it might vanish. "She brought us together," he whispered. The chandelier lights flickered. Then suddenly the air grew warmer, softer, almost alive. A faint shimmer appeared near the doorway, growing brighter by the second. Amelia gasped as the figure of a woman began to take form, faint but radiant, her presence filling the room with peace. "Mom." Noah's voice broke as tears filled his eyes. Mr. Hayes stood frozen, his lips trembling. "Emily." Her spirit smiled, eyes full of the same tenderness captured in the photograph. "My loves," she said softly, her voice like the wind through chimes. You've carried my memory so beautifully. But it's time for me to rest. Noah shook his head. No, please stay. I can't lose you again. He took a step forward, his small hands shaking. She reached out, and though her hand passed through his, the warmth of her touch filled his heart. You'll never lose me, she whispered. Every time you laugh, every time you love, I'll be there. That's where I'll live. Tears streamed down Amelia's cheeks. Mr. Hayes bowed his head, whispering, Thank you, Emily, for never leaving him alone. The spirit's glow softened as she looked at Amelia. Take care of him, she said kindly. He's stronger than he knows. Then, with one final smile, she dissolved into a gentle flurry of light, leaving behind a single lily petal that floated down into Noah's hands. Noah pressed it to his chest, eyes closed as a calm peace settled over the room. Amelia whispered, She's proud of you, Noah. And for the first time in years, the boy smiled through his tears, because he finally understood that goodbyes don't end love. They only set it free. Winter crept quietly into Crestwood, brushing the world with frost and silence. The leaves had fallen, the laughter of Halloween long faded, but the memory of that night still glowed softly in Amelia's heart. Weeks had passed since Emily Hayes's spirit had appeared in the Roth mansion, and though neither she nor Noah had seen her again, they both carried the warmth of her farewell wherever they went. The encounter had changed them. Amelia no longer saw life as divided between rich and poor, seen and unseen. And Noah, though still quiet and shy, now walked with a gentle light in his eyes, as if his mother's love had become the air around him. Every morning, before classes began, Amelia would find Noah sitting by the old oak tree sketching. His drawings had changed too, no longer filled with sorrow but with life. There were drawings of laughter, of sunlight streaming through leaves, of a woman made of light standing between two smiling children. Sometimes Amelia swore the sketches almost shimmered when the sun touched them. She's still watching, isn't she? Amelia asked one morning, smiling softly. Noah looked up from his notebook and nodded. Always, he said. She said she'd live in the moments I choose to be happy. So that's where I look for her now. That weekend, Amelia's father returned from a long trip. When she told him about the secret room and showed him the photo of their mothers together, he grew silent. For a long time, he stared at the image, his expression caught between pain and gratitude. Your mother always said kindness connects people in ways we can't understand, he murmured. I think she was right. The following day, he called Mr. Hayes into his office at the mansion. No one knew what they discussed, but when Noah's father left, there were tears in his eyes, and a faint smile that hadn't been there in years. A few days later, as snow began to fall, Amelia invited Noah over again. The mansion, once grand and distant, now felt warm, alive with laughter and friendship. They played piano together in the old music room, the same one where Emily had appeared. The air seemed to hum softly, the melody of that familiar lullaby weaving through their notes. When they stepped out into the garden afterward, they both stopped. On the wall near the old fountain, someone had drawn something new. It was a mural, faint but beautiful, a girl and a boy holding hands with a woman of light between them, her hair flowing like the wind. Beneath it, a single lily was etched into the stone. Amelia touched the drawing with trembling fingers. Did you make this? She whispered. Noah shook his head. No, I thought you did. They looked at each other, then up at the stars, feeling the air stir with that same gentle warmth they both knew so well. As snowflakes fell around them, Amelia smiled. Guess she's still here, she whispered. Noah nodded, his voice barely above the wind. Yeah, she's home now. And somewhere between the falling snow and the faint glimmer of candlelight from the mansion's windows, a soft lullaby played once more, the sound of a love that never truly said goodbye. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to Drew Daily Stories for more emotional tales of love, mystery, and unseen bonds that stay forever.